Who am I on stage versus off stage and why the line keeps blurring? I have been performing in various capacities for 8 years now, and I still cannot give you a straight answer about where I end and the performance begins. This used to bother me. I thought it meant I was fake or confused, or had not figured out my authentic self yet. Now I understand the question itself is flawed. The self is not a fixed thing you discover underneath all your performances. The self might actually be the collection of performances, with no stable core beneath them. When I first started performing, I treated the stage as a place. I went to become someone else. I would prepare a character, step into a role, execute the performance, then step back out into my real life. The boundary seemed clear. Stage me was confident, projected head presence. Offstage me was anxious, overthinking, constantly monitoring how I came across to others. Stage me knew exactly what to do with my hands. Offstage me never figured out where hands go during normal conversation. But over time something shifted. I noticed I was using stage skills in regular life. The breath control I learned for singing helped me stay calm in stressful conversations. The way I learned to hold eye contact during performance made job interviews easier. The confidence I could generate on stage started leaking into everyday interactions. I was not becoming more authentic. I was becoming more performed. And here is what surprised me. That felt fine. That felt maybe more honest than the idea of a pure, unperformed self waiting to emerge. Performance studies scholars talk about this as the performativity of identity. Judith Butler argued that gender is not something you are, but something you do through repeated performances that create the illusion of a stable identity. You are not a woman who acts feminine. You perform femininity repeatedly until people, including yourself, read you as woman. The performance comes first. The identity is the effect, not the cause. This applies beyond gender. Every identity category you inhabit gets constructed through repeat performance. You do not have an essential professional self that you express at work. You perform professionalism through clothing choices, posture, vocabulary, tone until others recognize you as a professional, and you start to recognize yourself that way too. Take away the performance and the identity dissolves, because there was never anything beneath it. On stage this becomes hypervisible. When I perform, I am making deliberate choices about every element of presentation. How I stand, where I look, when I pause, how much emotion to put in my voice. I am constructing a self in real time and the audience watches it happen. They know it is constructed. I know it is constructed. But if I do it well, the constructed self feels real. It generates real emotion in me and in them. The artifice does not make it less genuine. The artifice is how genuineness gets produced. Off stage we pretend the construction is not happening. We call our everyday performances natural or authentic as if those words mean unperformed. But you perform your authentic self just as much as you perform any stage role. Maybe more. The authentic self requires constant maintenance. You have to keep signaling through closed speech patterns, cultural references, friendship choices that this is really you. Any deviation gets read as fake or trying too hard or selling out. The authentic self is the most demanding performance of all, because you are not allowed to acknowledge it as performance. Performing taught me to see this. Once you spend enough time deliberately constructing a self on stage, you cannot unsee the construction happening everywhere else. You notice how you shift your vocabulary when talking to different friends, how your posture changes in different spaces, how you perform casual differently at a coffee shop versus a bar versus a family dinner. None of these versions is more real than the others. They are all real performances responding to different contexts and audiences. This creates a strange doubling effect. I am on stage performing a specific role, but I am also watching myself perform and adjusting in real time based on how the audience responds. Then off stage I catch myself doing the same thing in regular conversation, monitoring the reaction, adjusting my performance, trying to land the moment. At a certain point I stopped being able to tell if I learned this from performing, or if I was always doing it and performing just made me conscious of it. Sociology calls this impression management. Erving Goffman argued that all social interaction is performance, where we manage the impression we give off to control how others perceive us. We have a front stage where we perform for audiences and a backstage, where we prepare and relax between performances. But Goffman also noted that backstage is just another performance, for a different audience. Even alone you are performing for yourself, maintaining the narrative of who you are. For performers this gets complicated, because our literal backstage is still highly performed. The persona I have with other performers backstage before a show is not more authentic than what I do on stage. It is a different performance for a different context. We are performing camaraderie, professionalism, cool under pressure, excited, but not too nervous. The backstage self is just another role. So where is the real me? Maybe that is the wrong question. Maybe the better question is, why do we need there to be a real me underneath all the performances? What work does that idea do? I think it protects us from vertigo. If identity is all performance with no essential core, then who is doing the performing? It feels like there should be a self that precedes and organizes all the different performances, a director behind the scenes making choices, but my experience of performing suggests otherwise. I do not feel like a unified self deploying different personas strategically. I feel like a collection of performances that have gotten habitual, enough to feel like me. The repetition creates continuity. Certain performances get reinforced and become dominant, others get dropped. Over time, this accumulation starts to feel like a stable identity, but it is really just the pattern of performances that have stuck. This becomes clearest when a major performance stops working. Maybe you have built an identity around being funny, and then you are in a context where your humor does not land. Suddenly you do not know what to do. You feel like you have lost yourself, but you have not lost a self. You have lost a performance that was working, and now you need to develop a new one. The discomfort comes from the gap between performances, not from distance from some true self. Performing also showed me how much identity depends on audience recognition. On stage, this is obvious. I can perform confidence all I want, but if the audience does not read me as confident, the performance failed. Identity is not just what you project, it is what gets reflected back to you by others. You need the audience to complete the circuit. Off stage, this is equally true but easier to ignore. You can tell yourself you are being authentic, regardless of how others perceive you. But identity without recognition does not hold. If you perform masculinity and everyone reads you as feminine, you cannot simply insist on your own interpretation. Identity is a social accomplishment. It requires ongoing negotiation with the people around you. This is why marginalized identities are so exhausting to perform. You are not just performing yourself, you are constantly performing against stereotypes and misrecognition. You have to overperform certain aspects to be seen at all. Then you get read as too much or trying too hard. You cannot just be. You have to actively construct and defend your identity in every interaction, because the default recognition is not there. Performing taught me to recognize this labor. Because performance is always labor, even when it feels effortless, that is itself a performed effect. The ease is the hardest part to produce. On stage you practice until the constructed movements look natural. Off stage you practice your identity, until the performance feels like just being yourself. But the practice never stops. The moment you stop performing, the identity starts to dissolve. I used to think becoming more myself would mean needing to perform less. Now I think it might mean getting better at performing. Not in the sense of being fake, but in the sense of making intentional choices about how I show up in different contexts, and being honest about those choices as choices. Authenticity is not the absence of performance. Authenticity might be owning the performance. On stage I know I am constructing something in real time, and I have made peace with that. Off stage I am still negotiating how much to admit the same thing is happening. Our culture really wants there to be a true self beneath the performances. Admitting it is all performance feels cynical or postmodern, or like you are not taking identity seriously. But I think the opposite might be true. Taking identity seriously means recognizing the work it takes to build and maintain it. The line between stage and off stage has not just blurred for me, it has maybe disappeared. Not because I am always performing in a fake way, but because I am always performing in the only way identity exists. There is no me waiting backstage to come out. There is just the ongoing work of showing up in different contexts, making choices about presentation, negotiating recognition, building enough continuity that it feels like a self. The stage taught me that. Or maybe the stage just made visible what was always true.